لكل نبأ مستقر وسوف تعلمون.
Every tiding has its appointed time. You yourselves will soon know the end.
وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَ الَّذِينَ يَخُوضُونَ فِي آيَاتِنَا فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ حَتَّى يَخُوضُوا فِي حَدِيثٍ غَيْرِهِ وَإِمَّا يُنْسِيَنَّكَ الشَّيْطَانُ فَلَا تَقْعُدْ بَعْدَ الذِّكْرَى مَعَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ.
When you see those who are engaged in blasphemy against our signs, turn away from them until they begin to talk of other things. And should Satan ever cause you to forget, then do not remain after recollection in the company of those wrongdoing people. And should Satan ever cause you to forget, in case the Muslims fail to remember this directive and mistakenly continue to remain in the company of those who were indulging in making fun of their faith, they should withdraw from such company as soon as they remember this directive.
وَمَا عَلَى الَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ مِنْ حِسَابِهِمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ ولكن ذكرى لعلهم يتقون.
For those who are God-fearing are by no means accountable for the others, except that it is their duty to admonish them. Maybe then they will shun evil. Those who avoid disobedience to God will not be held responsible for the errors of those who disobey. This being the case, the former have no justification for taking it upon themselves to persuade the latter to obedience or to consider themselves obliged to answer all their questions, however absurd and flimsy, until the truth is forced down their throats. Their duty is merely to admonish and place the truth before those whom they find stumbling about in error. If there is no response to this call except remonstration and obstinate argument, they are under no obligation to waste their time and energy on them. They should rather devote their time and energy to instructing and admonishing those who have an urge to seek out the truth.
وَذَرِ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَعِبًا وَلَهْوًا وَغَرَّتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا وَذَكِّرْ بِهِ أَن تُبْسَلَ نَفْسٌ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ لَيْسَ لَهَا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ وَلِيٌّ ولا شفيع وإن تعدل كل عدل لا يؤخذ منها أولئك الذين أبسلوا بما كسبوا لهم شراب من حميم وعذاب أليم بما كانوا يكفرون.
Leave alone those who have made a sport and a pastime of their religion, and whom the life of the world has beguiled. But continue to admonish them with the Quran, lest a man should be caught for what he has himself earned, for there shall neither be any protector nor intercessor apart from Allah. And though he may offer any conceivable ransom, it shall not be accepted from him. For such people have been caught for the deeds that they have themselves earned. Boiling water to drink and a painful chastisement to suffer for their unbelief is what awaits them.
قل أندعو من دون الله ما لا ينفعنا ولا يضرنا ونرد على أعقابنا بعد إذ هدانا الله كالذي استهوته الشياطين في الأرض حيران له أصحاب يدعونه إلى الهدى ائتنا قل إن هدى الله هو الهدى وأمرنا لنسلم لرب العالمين.
Ask them, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, shall we invoke apart from Allah something that can neither benefit nor harm us, and thus be turned back on our heels after Allah has guided us? Like the one whom the evil ones have lured into bewilderment in the earth, even though he has friends who call him to true guidance, saying, Come to us, say, surely Allah's guidance is the only true guidance, and we have been commanded to submit ourselves to the Lord of the entire universe.
وأن أقيموا الصلاة واتقوه وهو الذي إليه تحشرون.
And to establish prayer and to have fear of Him, it is to Him that all of you shall be gathered.
وهو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بالحق ويوم يقول كن فيكون قوله الحق وله الملك يوم ينفخ في الصور عالم الغيب والشهادة وهو الحكيم الخبير.
And He it is who has created the heavens and the earth in truth. And the very day He will say, Be, resurrection there will be. His word is the truth, and His will be the dominion, on the day when the trumpet is blown. He knows all that lies beyond the reach of human perception, as well as all that is visible to man. He is the all-wise, the all-aware. And He it is who has created the heavens and the earth in truth. It has been asserted again and again in the Quran that God created the heavens and the earth in truth. This covers a wide range of meanings. First, that the heavens and the earth have not been created just for the fun of it. This existence is not a theatrical play. This world is not a child's toy with which to amuse oneself as long as one wishes before crushing it to bits and throwing it away. Creation is rather an act of great seriousness. A great objective motivates it, and a wise purpose underlies it. Hence, after the lapse of a certain stage, it is necessary for the Creator to take full account of the work that has been done and to use those results as the basis for the next stage. This is stated at various places in the Quran in the following manner. Our Lord, you did not create this in vain. Surah Al-Imran 3:191. And we did not create the heavens and the earth and whatever lies in between them playfully. Surah Al-Anbiya 21:16. And do you think that we created you out of play and that you will not be brought back to us? Surah Al-Mu'minun 23:115. Second, it means that God has created this entire system of the universe on solid foundations of truth. The whole of the universe is based on justice, wisdom, and truth. Hence, there is no scope in the system for falsehood to take root and prosper. The phenomenon of the prosperity of falsehood which we observe is to be ascribed to the will of God, who grants the followers of falsehood the opportunity, if they so wish, to expend their efforts in promoting unrighteousness, injustice, and untruth. In the end, however, the earth will throw up all the seeds of untruth that have been sown, and in the final reckoning, every follower of falsehood will see that the efforts he devoted to cultivating and watering this pernicious tree have all gone to waste. Third, it means that God has founded the universe on the basis of right, and it is on the ground of being its creator that He governs it. His command in the universe is supreme, since He alone has the right to govern it, the universe being nothing but His creation. If anyone else's commands seem to be carried out in this world, this should not cause any misunderstanding. For in reality, the will of no one prevails, and cannot prevail in the universe, for no one has any right to enforce His will. His word is the truth, and His will be the dominion. This does not mean that the present dominion is not his. The purpose of this statement is rather to stress that when the veil which keeps things covered during the present phase of existence is lifted, and the truth becomes fully manifest, it will become quite clear that all those who seemed or were considered to possess power and authority are absolutely powerless, and that the true dominion belongs to the one true God who created the universe. On the day when the trumpet is blown, in what manner the trumpet will be blown is difficult for us to grasp. What we know through the Quran is that on the day of judgment, the trumpet will be blown on God's command, whereupon all will die. Then, after an indefinite period of time, a period that is known to God alone, the second trumpet will be blown, whereupon all people of all epochs will be resurrected and will find themselves on the plane of the congregation. Thus, when the first trumpet is blown, the entire order of the universe will be disrupted, while on the blowing of the second trumpet, a fresh order will be established in a new form, with a new set of laws governing it. He knows all that lies beyond the reach of human perception, as well as all that is visible to man. Ghaib signifies all that is hidden from and is beyond the ken of man's knowledge. Shahada, as opposed to ghaib, signifies that which is manifest and thus can be known to man.
وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ آزَرَ أَتَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً إِنِّي أَرَاكَ وَقَوْمَكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ.
And recall when Abraham, peace be upon him, said to his father, Azar, do you take idols for gods? I see you and your people in obvious error. Do you take idols for gods? The incident relating to Abraham, peace be upon him, is adduced in order to confirm and reinforce the view that just as Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions, thanks to the guidance vouchsafed by God, had denounced polytheism and had turned away from all false gods, bowing their heads in obedience to the one true Lord of the universe, so had been done by Abraham in his time, peace be upon him. In the same way as ignorant people were then opposing the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and those who believed in him, Abraham, peace be upon him too, had been opposed in his day by the people among whom he lived. Furthermore, the answer Abraham, peace be upon him, gave to his people in the past can also be given by Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his followers, for he was on the same path as Noah, Abraham, and the other prophets, peace be upon them, who had descended from Abraham, peace be upon him. Those who had refused to follow the Prophet, peace be upon him, should therefore take note that they had deviated from the way of the prophets and were lost in error. At this point, it should also be noted that Abraham, peace be upon him, was generally acknowledged by the Arabs to be their patriarch and their original religious leader. The Quraysh in particular were proud of their devotion to Abraham, of being his progeny, and of being servants to the shrine built by him. Hence, the mention of Abraham's, peace be upon him, doctrine of monotheism, of his denunciation of polytheism, and his remonstration with his polytheistic people amounted to demolishing the very basis on which the Quraysh had prided themselves. It also amounted to destroying the confidence of the people of Arabia in their polytheistic religion. This also proved to them that the Muslims stood in the shoes of Abraham himself, whereas their own position was that of an ignorant nation, which had remonstrated with Abraham, peace be upon him, out of ignorance and folly.
وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ.
And thus we showed Abraham, peace be upon him, the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, so that he might become one of those who have sure faith. And thus we showed Abraham, peace be upon him, the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. The adversaries are told that they can observe God's signs in the phenomena of the universe just as Abraham, peace be upon him, could. The difference is that they see nothing as if they were blind, whereas Abraham, peace be upon him, saw with open eyes. The sun, moon, and stars which rise and set before their eyes day after day and night after night witness them as misguided at their setting as at their rising. Yet the same signs were observed by the perceptive Abraham, peace be upon him, and the physical phenomena helped him arrive at the truth. so that he might become one of those who have sure faith. To obtain a full understanding of this section, as well as those verses which mention the dispute between Abraham, peace be upon him, and his people, it is necessary to cast a glance at the religious and cultural condition of the latter. Thanks to recent archaeological discoveries, not only has the city where Abraham, peace be upon him, is said to have been born located, but a good deal of information is also available about the condition of the people of that area during the Abrahamic period. We reproduce below a summary of the conclusions which Sir Leonard Woolley arrived at as a result of researches embodied in his work Abraham, London, 1935. It is estimated that around 2100 BC, which is now generally accepted by scholars as the time of the advent of Abraham, peace be upon him, the population of the city of Ur was at least 250,000, maybe even 500,000. The city was a large industrial and commercial metropolis. Merchandise was brought to Ur from places as far away as Palmyra and Nilgiri in one direction, and in the other it had developed trade relations with Anatolia. The state of which this city was the capital extended a little beyond the boundaries of modern Iraq in the north and exceeded its present borders further to the west. The greater majority of the population were traders and craftsmen. The inscriptions of that period, which have been discovered in the course of archaeological research, make it clear that those people had a purely materialistic outlook on life. Their greatest concern was to earn the maximum amount of wealth and enjoy the highest degree of comfort and luxury. Interest was rampant among them, and their devotion to money-making seemed all-absorbing. They looked at one another with suspicion and often resorted to litigation. In their prayers to their gods, too, they generally asked for longer life, prosperity, and greater commercial success, rather than for spiritual growth, God's pardon, and reward in the hereafter. The population comprised three classes of people. 1. Amalu, the priests, the government, and the military officers. 2. Mushkinu, the craftsmen and farmers. And 3. The slave. The people of the first class mentioned, for instance, Amalu, enjoyed special privileges. In both criminal and civil matters, their rights were greater than those of the others, and their lives and property were deemed to be of higher value. It was in such a city and in such a society that Abraham first saw the light of day. Whatever information we possess with regard to him and his family through the Talmud shows that he belonged to the Amalu class and that his father was the highest functionary of the state. In the inscriptions of Ur, there are references to about 5,000 deities. Each city had its own deity. Each city had a chief deity which it considered its chief protector, and therefore that deity was considered worthy of greater reverence than all the others. The chief deity of Ur was Nanar, the moon god, and it is for this reason that the city later became known as Camarina. The other major city was Larsa, which replaced Ur as the capital of the kingdom. Its chief deity was Shamash, the sun god. Under these major deities there was a myriad of minor deities which had generally been chosen from among the heavenly bodies, stars and planets. People considered them responsible for granting their innumerable minor prayers. Idols had been carved in the image of these celestial and terrestrial gods and goddesses and were made objects of ritual worship. The idol of Nanar had been placed in a magnificent building on the top of the highest hill. Close to it was the temple of Ningal, the wife of Nanar. The temple of Nanar resembled a royal palace. Every night a female worshipper went to its bedroom adorned as a bride. A great number of women had been consecrated in the name of this deity, and their position was virtually that of religious prostitutes. The woman who would sacrifice her virginity for the sake of her god was held in great esteem. For a woman to give herself to some unrelated person for the sake of God was considered a means to salvation. Needless to say, it was generally the priests who made most use of this institution. Nanar was not merely a deity, but the biggest landlord, the biggest trader, the biggest industrialist, and the most powerful ruler. Many orchards, buildings, and huge estates had been consecrated to his temple. In addition to this, cereals, milk, gold, cloth, etc. were brought as offerings to the temple by peasants, landlords, and merchants, and there was a large staff in the temple to receive the offerings. Many a factory had been established on behalf of the temple. Large-scale trading was also carried out on its behalf. All these activities were conducted by the priests in the name of the deity. Moreover, the country's main court was also located in the temple. The priests functioned as judges, and their judgments were equated with those of God. The authority of the royal family was derived from Nanar. The concept was that the Nanar was the true sovereign and that the ruler of the country governed merely on his behalf. Because of this relationship, the king himself was raised to the rank of a deity and was worshipped. The founder of the dynasty which ruled over Ur at the time of Abraham, peace be upon him, was Ur-Nammu. In 2300 BC, he had established an extensive kingdom, stretching from Susa in the east to Lebanon in the west. Hence, the dynasty acquired the name Nammu, which became Nimrud in Arabic. After the emigration of Abraham, peace be upon him, both the ruling dynasty and the nation of Ur were subjected to a succession of disasters. Firstly, the Elamites sacked Ur and captured Nimrud along with the idols of Nanar. Later on, an Elamite state was established on Larsa, which governed Ur as well. Later still, Babylon prospered under a dynasty of Arabian origin, and both Larsa and Ur came under its hegemony. These disasters shook the people of Ur's faith in Nanar, for he had failed to protect them. It is difficult to say much with certainty about the extent of the subsequent impact of the teachings of Abraham on these people, peace be upon him. The laws which were codified by the Babylonian king Hammurabi in 1910 BC show the impress of the prophetic influence, whether direct or indirect. An inscription of this code was discovered in 1902 by a French archaeologist, and its English translation by C.H.W. John was published in 1903 under the title The Oldest Code of Law. Many articles of this code, both fundamental principles and substantive laws, bear some resemblance to the Mosaic Law. If the conclusions of these archaeological researchers are correct, it becomes quite evident that polytheism did not consist merely of a set of religious beliefs and polytheistic rites. It rather provided the foundation on which the entire order of economic, cultural, political, and social life rested. Likewise, the monotheistic mission, which was undertaken by Abraham, peace be upon him, was not merely directed against the practice of idol worship. It had far wider implications, so much so that it affected the position of the royal family both as rulers and deities. It also affected the social, economic, and political status and interests of the priestly class and the aristocracy in general, and in fact the entire fabric of the social life of the kingdom. To accept the teaching of Abraham, peace be upon him, meant that the entire edifice of the existing society should be pulled down and raised anew on the basis of belief in the one God. Hence, as soon as Abraham, peace be upon him, launched his mission, ordinary people as well as the privileged class, ordinary devotees as well as Nimrud, rose at once to oppose and suppress it.